The banks do a lot of bad things, and the banks are the people that are in charge. And we'd like to think that politicians are in charge, but the more that I paid attention, literally, I wrote a series of articles about how you could find an earpiece during the political debate, and Obama was wearing that earpiece, Hillary Clinton was wearing an earpiece, Bill Clinton was wearing an earpiece, George Bush was wearing an earpiece. They all had the same equipment on. And when you can track that, it doesn't matter what party they're on, it doesn't matter what they're saying, there's somebody off on stage right that is feeding all of them lines. It really clarified to me that, look, we got puppets. The people that are leading these countries, yes, they have some influence because they're part of the system, but they're largely puppets that are being controlled by somebody else. And the question would be, who could control like a president? Who has that much power? And it goes back to thinking about in 2008, we saw that the Federal Reserve printed $16 to $23 trillion. They just printed it out of thin air. They did it without congressional approval. They did it without congressional oversight. Alan Greenspan got in front of TV and said, you guys don't have oversight over us. The central banks are the people that actually have so much money. And that's an enormous sum, right? Like the United States GDP for the country is 16 trillion. So in like a short period of time, they just printed the entire wealth generated by our country in a very short period of time without any kind of oversight. And then they sent it mostly to foreign banks. And these are not people that help us. These are people that make very speculative bets. And whenever they go wrong, they steal money from the public. So just everything that I've watched and I've witnessed from here, the conspiracy is basically the central bankers run the world. Those central bankers are willing to cause harm, invade other countries, basically to go protect their ability to print money. Because ever since World War II, we've basically had the world reserve currency has been the United States dollar. And I kept trying to figure out, why are we invading all these countries? What does this have to do? Like, at first we were spreading democracy and I believed that. And then I'm like, all right, maybe that doesn't quite make sense. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe we're doing this for oil. And that started making some sense. But the thing that really clicked the most, more than anything else, was when I realized what the actual stakes of this game are, is that when they're invading other countries, the countries that they're invading are oftentimes creating alternate currencies to the United States dollar. And what they're trying to prevent is people to have any resistance against their monopoly on money creation. Because as long as they create the money, they are the single most powerful force in the world. And that's part of why I like cryptocurrency so much, because it's the exact antithesis of that. And that now that's a decentralized power. They can't just print money at a whim. You have to get consensus of the entire block to go figure out how you're going to print money. And that way, and it's changing all kinds of things, like when I store money in my bank account and I wait a year, today I can buy so much groceries with $100. Next year I can buy less because it's a highly inflationary currency and my value goes down, and they're robbing my wealth by printing all this money. Conversely, in cryptocurrencies, yes, it's technically inflationary, but the amount of inflation is so tiny compared to what the fiat currencies are doing. The fiat currencies are racing each other to try to devalue their currency as fast as possible. That's what a currency war is. In crypto, we barely have any inflation. And as a result, if I hold my crypto, forgetting about the daily price fluctuations, but in general, if I hold my currency today and I spend it a year from now, it's going to be worth more. And that's because it's a deflationary currency by definition. That's what happens with deflationary currencies. So not ignoring the up and downs of the price and how that, these prices have pretty extreme swings, but in general, just because it's deflationary, I'll be able to buy more groceries with it. And that helps alleviate that sort of poverty mindset, the scarcity mindset that everybody is feeling. These things just represent one of the most powerful, most liberating, most abundance-inducing, liberating force for this planet. And it directly impacts these criminal bankers and the violence that they cause. Like, how do you attack an entire planet, right? Like if you have a centralized authority, I think that we went after Saddam Hussein and we invaded that country because he wanted to go create a gold-backed currency. And a gold-backed currency would have more value than a fiat-backed currency, which it literally means backed by nothing. And so we invaded there. And I think that there's other examples of that where we're invading, where the United States government is invading countries to go protect their monopoly on currency creation. So that is my ultimate conspiracy theory. There's probably other things like, I've seen clouds form at a 90-degree angle, and it makes me think, water vapor doesn't like 90-degree angles. If we're seeing 90-degree angle clouds, that's some kind of geoengineering. So do I then take that all the way out to like, the United States government is putting weird diseases into clouds and attacking us with that? I don't know. I have no evidence one way or the other, but I do know that nature doesn't like 90-degree angles. And if I look at the sky, I see clouds form at literal 90-degree angles. And I can say, okay, that's industrial cloud formation. That's geoengineering. I can't then go on to say exactly what they're causing with it, but I can say, okay, that thing is real. So I try to keep this, I'm a PhD chemist, right? So a PhD chemist trying to be a conspiracy theorist, I do have some personal limitations of where do I want to go with this? How extreme do I want to be? I try to hold open, okay, maybe there are reptilians. I'm not going to spend a lot of my like mental or emotional energies like diving into every single one of those conspiracies and really believing it with all my heart. But if there's some evidence that somebody can really show me, then I'll start investigating. Do I think there's any truth to these things? But the big picture, so those are at the extreme fringe. But at the very basic level, I believe bankers run this world. The bankers are willing to do just about anything to keep their power intact, which comes from the ability to print money. And that means that they're willing to wage war, they're willing to kill people, they're willing to assassinate people, they're willing to bribe people. They'll basically break every single law on the planet to go keep their ability to print money. Because like they saw, like what would you do to go keep the ability to print $16 trillion in a week, right? And then if you had $16 trillion, what would you do with that outrageous sum of money? You could literally do anything. There's so much power in this, and that's ultimately why I think, like $100,000 here and there, people are already willing to like shoot one another and do bank robbery. For $16 trillion in a year, I'm willing to bet people are willing to commit genocide to go protect it.
Going back to what you said about invading Iraq, don't you think it would be easier to stop this crypto movement than it would be to invade Iraq, for instance?
I don't know. Decentralization makes it pretty hard. What are you going to do? You're going to it's like playing whack-a-mole. You hit one and that mole falls down, and then you hit another and that one falls down, but they keep popping back up. And if anything, what we see is that, right now there's something like 2,000 cryptocurrencies that are already out there, and they keep coming. Like there's new ICOs all the time. I think it's going to be impossible to put this genie back into the bottle. Whereas if you have a country with a leader, and that leader is saying, I'm going to print a currency that is gold backed, you can either kill that one person or invade that country. You can eliminate that threat. But how, if the United States, like a lot of these coins are in the United States, a lot of them are in Japan, a lot of them are in Taiwan, a lot of them are in Korea. This is a global phenomena. How do you go in and arrest all the people that are involved in this? And it just doesn't, I don't see how you, it's like a giant weed that just keeps spreading. How do you combat that? You can combat it when it's a centralized authority. The civil rights movement was really centered on Martin Luther King. And when they killed Martin Luther King, they were able to go really calm down that movement. When you have major leaders and major authority figures, you can really silence things. But when things are decentralized globally across an internet, I think cryptocurrency is about as anti-fragile as they come, and I think it's going to be life-changing moving forward.
Yeah, I agree, because in order to And not only with all these different cryptocurrencies popping up, but let's say Bitcoin itself, it's going to be hard to shut that down because since it's so decentralized, in order to take it down, you have to take down all the actors all at the same time, which in Bitcoin's case, it's the miners. So if you want any major changes or to take it down, you have to stop every single miner at the exact same moment. And I just don't think that's feasibly possible.
All right, so you shut it down. Great. What stops it from sort of regenerating a week later? Mm-hmm. And even if Bitcoin dies, what's going to stop? How do you stop Bitcoin Cash? How do you stop Bitcoin Gold? How do you stop Litecoin? How do you literally root out every single one of these? And the second that you do, there's just going to be 10 others that take their place. They'll just restart the chains. Mm-hmm. It's not you would have to seize every single ASIC device in the world to go get all of the mining to stop. And what are you going to do? Invade Greenland or invade Iceland? You're going to go into every single deep mountain mining operation and go rip out every single ASIC? I just don't. The countries don't have enough authority or power to go do that. And if they start doing it, there's going to be a freaking mass uprising on this planet. So I don't know. They just don't have the power or authority. They'll just try to short markets and try to drain value out of this stuff. I don't think they can actually kill it.